Okay, welcome everybody. We have Doctors Hannah Howell and Sabrina Stanley here from the University of North Alabama, and that's all I'm going to say for now. Take it away.
All right. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about a research project that Dr. Stanley and I have been working on, and really what we've done with that research. We are from a tiny regional institution in the northwest corner of Alabama. If you are familiar with the southeastern geography, we are located right where Mississippi, Tennessee, and Alabama meet, right on the Tennessee River. And so we have a wonderful, booming education population up there. And what we were seeing was that our students were not prepared for AI. So throughout this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about our research, and a little bit about what we did with what we found. All right, so like he said, I'm Dr. Hannah Hall, and Dr. Sabrina Stanley is here with me today. And just for a little bit of background, we are both former classroom teachers. I will not pretend to tell you that I did that for a long time. I only had about a 3-year stint in math and special education. So Sabrina's her experience there far exceeds mine in the classroom because most of my professional career has been in instructional technology and design. But I think we both come from a time in K-12 education where devices and technology are really being pushed into the classroom, and we're starting to see a lot of lack of transparency and lack of training for teachers who are expected to use this information. So, we decided, and I'm sorry, I keep trying to hit my key and it will not let me change with the key. So here we go. All right, so we started looking at, well, first we started looking at artificial intelligence because that's both something that we're really interested in. That's part of both of our research areas. And so we wanted to know how these rapid advancements in artificial intelligence are being used within the classroom, specifically within the K-12 space. And we also found that there are gaps in AI policy and training. And I think that's a really catch-22 thing to think about because as soon as you get policy and training with artificial intelligence out, it's already outdated. So how do you make sure that you're keeping it broad enough that it doesn't have to be updated, you know, so often, but also making it meaningful with its broadness? So we decided to use the gaps that we were seeing with our pre-service teachers and just in the classroom in our region. And we decided to explore in-service and pre-service teachers and their perceptions of AI, building on a study that we found. So we duplicated the survey and we distributed it to all of our regional institutions. So any school that we had a partnership with that allowed interns to go in. Some of our colleagues let us use some of their students, and we were able to recruit participants through QR codes, through in-person classes. I'm sorry, I forgot a word there for a second. And so what we found was that we know that it is essential to prepare students for success. So how do we do that?
So we designed this as a longitudinal study. We were figuring out, what would this process look like? So we started with phase one with our survey. And then once we analyzed the data from the survey, we moved into phase two, which was to implement a program, and we'll talk about what we implemented. It's going to be an AI micro-credential to address the concerns that were brought to light through that survey. And then later we'll go into phase three, where we want to follow up with the participants in our program and follow them into the future to see how they are applying the skills that they learned through the micro-credential. And so since this is an ongoing process, like we were really literally right in the middle. Okay. So we did the research, where when we started the survey, we were like, well, what are people saying about AI at that point, and tried to really rely on as current as we could at the time. As we are writing about phase two, we're again going back to the most recent publications that we can. But here, what we're sharing is that the trends we were looking for, like what are they publishing about AI research. And it included, we broke it down into these categories when we did our coding, how the applications of AI, how it's being used, the evolving role of educators. So as AI becomes a more prevalent tool, how does that affect the tasks that teachers do and their role as a classroom teacher? Number three were the teachers' perceptions. How do they view AI and that role in their job? Number four, the benefits and challenges, because there with every good tool, right, there are going to be positives and negatives, those strengths that we really embrace, those weaknesses that we try to work around. And then number four, the policy and training gaps, because we really we saw it in our survey, we found in the research also that there is a disconnect, that there's this tool out there. Systems are slow to generate policies about the use of these tools, and then nobody's really doing any training. It's like they're waiting to figure it out instead of getting started with the training. So with those aspects in mind, that's what drove us to move forward and what we've created. Okay, Hannah?
So the methodology for phase one of our study was again a Qualtrics survey that was distributed via email. We really used the snowball method and relied on the administrators that we could get in contact with. So we sent the recruitment email out to administrators and they forwarded it out to their faculty. And that was our in-service teachers. And we also, again, have both been in the field of education. So we were able to reach out to former coworkers and our former placements. We're not from the Florence area, that Northwest Alabama. So we were able to kind of distribute that across West and Central Alabama also. Our data collection lasted around 6 weeks. And through that 6 weeks, we were able to collect 184 complete responses. Of those 184 responses, 59% were pre-service teachers and 41% were in-service teachers. So we felt like this was pretty balanced. Honestly, I would have liked to see it a little more 50-50, but we figured that our pre-service teachers would be easier to recruit because we were able to do that in person in classes. And the topics covered within the survey were just technology comfort, AI usage, access to training, and this wasn't limited just to AI training, this was technology training in general, and also their perceptions of AI. So, as far as our participants, again, the majority were pre-service teachers, and that just was how we were able to recruit the participants. Most of our students, or excuse me, most of our participants were 18 to 24, and that's not differentiated between the pre-service and in-service teachers. So that 56% includes both age groups of both types of participants. And then our gender breakdown was 82% female and 17% male. Now, when we talk about this statistic, sometimes we get questions on it because it seems extremely biased toward females. But when you compare that to the demographic of the workforce of K-12 educators in the state of Alabama, the state workforce for K-12 teachers is about 75% female and 25% male. So we feel like we're in line with what the workforce sees. And again, most of our in-service teachers work in public schools. We were able to reach some private schools, but most of them worked within in the public schools. So we could talk about the results of all four pillars of this study, but for the purpose of this presentation, we chose just to focus on the AI usage and perception. But our most used AI tool that people admitted to using was ChatGPT. 46% of participants experienced irresponsible use of AI tools, either with students as an in-service teacher, or this could also include students that were doing internships or placements that were responsible for students. So almost 50% had experienced some kind of irresponsible use of any kind of AI tool. And what we thought was interesting was most of the perception was neutral or somewhat positive among 70% of the participants. And honestly, with the amount of misuse that was reported, I expected that perception percentage to be a little lower. But it seems like our educators and pre-service teachers are open to using these types of tools. And I think the most shocking part of this part of our data collection was that honestly, the middle-aged educators, which were 25 to 44, showed the most skepticism. And in some of our data collection, we actually showed that our older group, which was 55 and above, were more open to the use of these products.
So, based on our analysis of the survey results, we were able to identify the challenges. First being the limited training. 36% of our participants reported that they had a moderate amount of training. Only 6% reported none at all. But really, I think it would have been more encouraging. Maybe we wouldn't have been as driven to initiate what we did had those numbers been higher, but that's where we'd want it to go. So looking forward to phase 3, wouldn't it be great if the percentage of those who say they have engaged with some sort of AI training is that goes up? It's a larger number. Then there are those policy gaps. Now, we're not in the business of policy making, so we're just really policy tracking at this point. 45% of the in-service teachers that surveyed said they weren't even aware of what their school system's AI policy was. Now, that was more than a semester ago that we did the survey. Again, that's another statistic we're going to want to track when we get to phase 3. Like, as time goes on, as more and more AI usage, permeates the educational landscape, how are these numbers on training going to be affected? How are these numbers on, is there a policy now? And do the teachers know what the policy is? And then third, that need for very clear guidance that when it comes to use of these AI tools, there's no room for it to be vague, and then teachers are using these tools, and then for the policies and training to come in, and now teachers are having to shift because they're like, oh, well, you can't do that. Oh, you can do that. So they need to know what their parameters are so that they can then operate within those guidelines. Okay, Hannah? All right, 4 recommendations from this. The first is to just enhance that AI and technology training within a teacher education program, which is where we are. We are in the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Leadership. And so that's where we have the most contact and the most effect. Number 2, to improve communication of district technology and AI policies. And there again, I think the more that these conversations occur, we are assuming at this point that it would be a natural progression that those districts would then engage in more training and establishing those policies. Number 3, integrate AI ethics into teacher training and K-12 curricula. So there is using AI, and then there's using AI ethically, right? So for us, it's important that that aspect of AI use is not neglected. And then number 4, provide differentiated professional development for experienced teachers. It is so true that it is hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And how many times have we seen the latest technology come along, and our more experienced teachers are like, I don't want to learn another new thing. This is terrible. But wouldn't it be great if they were scaffolded into more familiarity and use of the powerful tools such as AI? Okay. So what we have done then is we've identified a need to expand those opportunities. And since we're in a teacher education program, we're talking about expanding it for our teacher candidates within the certification programs that we have here. Our findings highlighted the gaps in practical and innovative learning experiences for those future educators, right? So they are learning the research-based best practices. We advocate that including the use of AI is part of that process, that is what's going to make them a future educator, is being prepared to use these current technologies. The next is the insights inform the development of our new targeted professional learning pathway. We're getting to that. That's the micro-credential. And then as a result, oh, there it is. And then so we've created this micro-credential. So it's designed to be part of a program for teacher education program candidates in a K-12 environmental program, educational program. Those are our clients here, right? Those are our customers. And so we're trying to make sure that the educators that come through our system are well versed in the cutting edge tools out there.
Yeah, so this micro-credential is made up of 4 different classes. It is offered completely online, and um, and I will be completely transparent with you here. 3 of these 4 classes are actually repurposed from our bachelor's degree in instructional technology and design that we have since closed due to low enrollments. So we received a grant to complete this micro-credential and thought we have these courses that are already developed. So why not repurpose them for something that could be beneficial to our teacher education program? So the first course that they take is ITD 201, and that is just an introduction to artificial intelligence. The second course they take is ITD 205, Digital Literacy. This course is considered one of our general education electives. It is open to all of campus, and this really focuses on learning deeper about AI because they get an introduction in ITD 201, and then they learn about deep fakes. We give them a framework for learning how to spot deep fakes. We deep dive into social media and really where that information goes, where it's stored. We really stress that it doesn't ever go away. So what you post there will live with you for probably forever. It'll just, even if the site that you used to create it shuts down, it's going to be transferred somewhere. And then the third is Ed 381. That's instructional technology for the high school. And then the fourth was ITD 499 special topics. And right now this course really focuses on a leadership role and how you can take what you've learned within this micro-credential and really move it into the professional space. So how can you teach someone else what you've learned? So the topic right now that they do is a professional development session. So they go in and they take the role of a trainer and they come up with the training to teach the faculty that they may interact with. So one thing that we really tried to do with this micro credential when we created it was we didn't want to cause any additional, or excuse me, we wanted to minimize additional load on our students to add this into their degree program. So courses 2 and courses 3, so ITD 205 and Ed 381, are courses that they can already take as part of their degree program. So if students decide to enroll in this micro-credential, they only have to take an additional 6 hours to get this. The other 6 are built into their degree program. Now, there are some exceptions with that ITD 205 course. Some of our larger content areas in secondary education, they use Area 4 to do some of their content. So, for example, our social studies majors would have to take that in addition to what they're already taking because Area 4 is humanities and history and literature. So, that's like the one exception. But so of these 12 hours, 6 potentially are built into their program. So they only have to take 6 additional hours. And we're still in the beginning processes of this. It actually launches in the fall. And so the way we envision the other 2 courses work, so those bookend courses, is to make them summer courses. And so a lot of our teacher education majors have room in the summer. So we're trying to make sure it is beneficial to them, but also does not overload them in the fall and the spring semester. So these courses are really based on the UNESCO framework. This is the UNESCO framework for AI implementation for teachers. And so we really use this framework to build out the program. So, for example, ITD 201, the first course in the micro-credential, that's where we focus on aspect number 3 of this framework. They really get in the foundation and applications and the different types of AI. We encourage them to build with it. We encourage them to use it because we want them to know what they're using and we want them to know how to use it. So anyone that's used AI for a long time has probably heard someone say garbage in, garbage out. And that really is true when you're trying to get correct information and you're trying to get a usable product for you to add the human touch to. So that's really what we focus on in ITD 201. And ITD 205, which is their second course, they really focus on aspect 1 and 2. So that's where they get the ethics of AI and also the human-centered mindset, how to maintain your human agency and what kind of social responsibility do we have for using these products. And then in Ed 381, Sabrina really talks about AI pedagogy and she teaches them literally how to incorporate it into their teaching practice in that education course. And then in ITD 499, students are going to use aspect 5 to really create an entire professional development session for their peers. They have to pick a topic. They will have to go in and create all of the resources for this because, again, we really want them to be the ones taking this back and training and taking responsibility for this.
So here are our program objectives for the AI micro-credential at our institution. The first is to explain the foundational AI concepts and their relevance to education. We know that students are interacting with AI, with ChatGPT, but have they stopped to think, how can this be relevant toward their career as educators? Number 2, to design instruction that integrates AI tools to enhance the engagement and learning outcomes. It's not just about making their job easier. It's about what are they doing within their class that is helping students to expand their learning, is to assist in student engagement with, good inquiry-based, student-centered learning. Number 3, evaluate the ethical, social, and cultural implications of AI in educational context. It's not about just using these tools because they're out there. It's about vetting these tools. As soon as, ChatGPT became commonplace, all of a sudden all these educational products popped up like crazy on the internet, and they're not all created equal. Some do a better job of protecting student privacy and data than others. And so we want to make sure that that our teachers that are coming out of our program understand that, well, you do have to look into that. You do have to vet that. And then number 4, demonstrate the leadership in supporting responsible and equitable AI adoption in schools and organizations. If our candidates are arriving at their new jobs well-versed in great AI use and ethics, then they are now setting themselves up already to become teacher leaders within their school, so that they can then encourage others to use these products responsibly. We really don't want our candidates to go out into schools with just a little bit of understanding and they say a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, right? We want them to have lots of information and be able to share with others, this is how we use these products responsibly.
So the graphic that you see on the screen is our current marketing material. So we actually received the final approvals for this micro-credential a little under a month ago. So we're just getting started with how we are pushing this information out. So This information was passed out to potential high school students. So our state has something called the Future Teachers of Alabama. It is part of it's I guess it's the student version of the state version of the National Educators Association, if that makes sense. So there's NEA, and then we have AEA, and then AEA has a student organization called the Future Teachers of Alabama. So we were able to present at both of their conferences to promote this new micro-credential, and it was really well received. And so we were able to pass out information. And so our marketing plan from here on out, our grant will allow us to make marketing content. We can do social media promotion, and different smaller marketing campaigns to kind of make sure that prospective students know that this is available to them. And also, there is word of mouth within our education courses to make sure that our current students know that they can also add it. Even if they've already filled out those requirements, they are still eligible to take those 12 hours, even though they may have already filled all of their general education requirements. So this is what we have out. If you are interested, that fountain and that building is actually located on the campus of the University of North Alabama. There is a story behind the fountain. It is marble and it was sent over from Florence, Italy, because we are sister cities with them. So I always like to talk about the fountain. Some some people think that is clip art, but no, that's literally in the center of campus. Twice a year, there are whole events to turn it off and turn it back on so it doesn't freeze. Um, and so it really is at the center of our campus. So
So, in conclusion, and as we're looking forward in this longitudinal study, we are next going to plan like what is our evaluation plan, for the effect of instituting this micro-credential? What continuous improvement can come out of this? And again, what are those student learning outcomes? What are our candidates leaving our program actually understanding? And those are the things we'll want to come back and revisit during phase 3 of our longitudinal study.
yeah.
We sincerely appreciate you all logging into our little session. We would like to open it up to any comments or questions. All right, in the chat, we have, let's see, I'm helping pre-service in New York City integrate technology into their classrooms. This mirrors what I've noticed. Oh, good. Okay. That's awesome. That's good to know that it's not just Alabama, but New York too. Yay. Thank you, Dr. Sky. Are any of you all aware of any micro-credential programs where you are related to AI?
Well, speaking of that, I did notice a typo that I typed. We are not the first, maybe in the United States. That should have said we are the first in the state of Alabama. So we're not trying to claim that for all 50 states, but we are. We are the first. I'm sure of many. Um, and I think we're going to start seeing these pop up all in many different disciplines because it's really the way of the workforce right now. Um, so
Oh, okay. This guy's sharing that ISTE and ASTD's AI in Education is a really good certification mini course. I get their emails. I need to pay better attention.
yeah, I feel like I need to go do that.
I'm glad you brought that to our attention. Well, we hope that everybody is enjoying this conference and we appreciate you joining us.
Yes, thank you all.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sabrina and Hannah. And Same thing that they said. Thank you so much for enjoying the conference. I do have a survey here. I'm going to copy and paste into the chat. If you could take a moment to fill out for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Here is the survey. Sorry, I should be on video. And unless anyone else has any further questions or anything else to say.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're welcome.
thank
Thank
you.
you guys. We'll see you all tomorrow morning.
Sounds good.